Shotgun to shotgun.
Mommy, you know that stuff that you
Robert Sekhet. Is there supposed to be sound on this presentation? Because there's no sound coming through if there is.
Better?
Is there supposed to be sound on your presentation? The slideshow that you're showing, there's no sound. We just pictures and nobody saying it.
Brother, what were you saying?
I was saying that there's no sound.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the sound, you can hear the sound, we don't hear it. The sound is off distant in your background. We don't hear it.
Hey, brother, I told you I'm trying to fix that now.
This will be.
Maybe try backing out and restarting it. Because the sound is not coming through.
have some what's it come out of? Good. No.
Are you hearing anything now?
No, sir.
Sorry about that. It's a song taken from Muhammad Ali, where Brother Will Smith portrayed him. The part where he was running through Africa, preparing for the fight with George Foreman. If you are familiar with that movie, what's the name of the artist?
Salif Kite.
Tomorrow. So we chose that song, that theme to portray, to relay this message here with the elders playing the drum, different images of the craft, Obia, and later on bring them together so you can understand the misconceptions that are being promoted out there, pushed out there. You know, in my school, I do a lot of work with the students to remove the shroud of misconceptions. Even in Suriname, it's there because of Christianity and many other religions have caused that. So what we can do is just
You can share the song afterwards.
we can share this song afterwards, you guys. That's okay.
And send the PowerPoint so that you can sync both the audio and the visuals. We're really sorry that you can't hear the song right now. Okay, but everyone is hearing us now. Yes?
Yeah, we're hearing you. We're hearing you. We're just not hearing the PowerPoint. Somebody's saying you got to share the sound as well as share the computer screen. So share the screen as well as and share the sound. See what happens.
It's right at the bottom where it says optimal sound. It should be on the left bottom of where when you begin to share. It should be on the left at the bottom.
Okay. All right. What do we start from the beginning? Okay, so we'll restart. Did you hear the sound just now?
Yes, we just heard the song just now.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll restart from there.
Thank you for your patience, guys.
What?
Anything, sir?
Okay, well, we were just told that the audio is not coming through again. So as we said before, we will just share the audio and the PowerPoints with you all who are present here so that you will be able to sync both the audio and the visual. Okay. All right, so from the images that was shown, I'm sure you're able to see one that highlighted children surrounding an elder, and that elder was, of course, sharing a story. And as we know, storytelling, oral tradition, is one of the most effective, most potent way of communicating, and the Africans used and still use to communicate. And it's something that we don't see much in, I would say in Trinidad, because that's where I live. But it's something that should be revived, because it's a wonderful, effective way to pass on information from one generation to the next without the information being compromised or contaminated from its pure purpose and truth. So in the African tradition, certain tribes, what happens is that when a child reaches a certain age, a rite of passage ceremony is performed. So one day, a young man, of course, young man because he had to perform and he had to go through, participate in his ceremony, was summoned by the shaman of his village, also known as the Obia man or chief of the village. And he in particular was called directly because he was ordained or claimed as to be the successor of the shaman. So upon entering the shaman's house, he was instructed to sit, and obediently the young man did so. Afterwards, he was instructed to drink a tincture that was sitting before him. And without questioning, the young man did exactly what the shaman instructed him to do. Because between the relationship between the student and the shaman, or the student and the chief, or mentor and mentee, that relationship, there's a strong level of trust that is embedded. So the young man trusted that whatever he was told, it was right. After drinking the tincture, the shaman told him, whatever it is you experience, come back and let me know. And of course, the young man, after ingesting the tincture, a few minutes after, he felt his body started feeling strange, got this unfamiliar feeling, and felt his spirit disconnecting from his body. And all of a sudden, he found himself in this unfamiliar place. He saw nothing, but he heard voices close enough for him to hear. And these voices sounded as though they were in a debate. So one voice he heard one voice saying, we have to find somewhere to hide the secrets of the universe. We have to, it is mandatory that these secrets are hidden, because if man accesses them with his destructive, indisciplined pattern of behavior or nature, the information, the secrets are going to be contaminated. It will be destroyed completely. So these voices, these spirits that were involved in this conversation, this debate, that's how the young man interpreted it as a debate, found it necessary to hide these secrets. So another voice said, okay, I know, let's hide it in the earth, because man cannot access the earth. He can't enter into the earth and get it. It's impossible for him to do that. And the voice before said, that's not going to work. Because one day, man is going to build machines, and he's going to be able to dig as deep as he wants into the earth, penetrate the soil, and will get access to these secrets. Another voice said, okay, well, let's hide it in the ocean. Let's hide it in the water, because the ocean is way too vast for the secrets to be exposed, to be accessed. And again, no, man is going to build machines. He will be able to access that. We can't hide it in the sea, in the ocean. And another voice said, all right, if not the earth, if not the sea, let's hide it where we are at, in the air, in the sky. And again, man is going to be able to build machines and artificially fly and be able to navigate and soar the skies. So a few moments after feeling hopeless of where to hide these secrets, another voice, who the young man didn't hear before, said, I know where we're going to hide those secrets. We should hide them in man themselves, in men themselves, because it is there. They would never look for it. So after listening to the conversation, the young man returned to his body and opened his eyes and saw the shaman looking at him, smiling. And the shaman said, okay, what happened? And the young man shared with him what he experienced. And the shaman said, okay, so how are you going to access these secrets? Surprisingly enough, the young man said, I don't know. And the shaman said, okay, once you get the answer, once you find out, come back and let me know. So that story was shared with me 2 years ago. And ever since I heard it, it has always been one that stuck with me, because it reflected my life. I resonated with it strongly, because it highlighted 3 things. One, the importance of having elders in a community, chiefs in a community, shamans, obeah men. 2, the importance of African rituals and practices being done and creating a foundation for children and humans on the whole. And 3, becoming aware of your internal power, becoming conscious of that, the power within.
So what Salima just shared there is, I would say, a prelude into what I'm going to now talk about. We're going to go back and forth, so therefore you will get the best of both worlds. All right, so currently I am going through what is called Sika, or Sika acid, or fixing the initiate. And the stories, what they do, they carry a lot of messages for those who are listening, also those who are carrying it to remember what it is they were doing from their ancestors or fathers. And in our culture, we have heard many words, many titles that has created a lot of, panic. For example, let me hear the word in the Caribbean, obeah man. In Jamaica and Trinidad especially, Barbados, you hear that word Obiama, people become very frightened because of what the enslavers, colonizers did with those words that we held as sacred. Words like voodoo or sangoma, witch, yame. All of these titles, which held significance in our communities, has now, in some parts of the world, the diaspora have been considered something of a negative. When in truth, these words hold vast power to it. Now, what I would like to do with the those who are listening on is for you all to exchange, because we can keep talking. But what I found in my time learning, because I started off like many of the brothers and sisters who were in diaspora, I began with elder by the name of Malachi Zolak Yokel, who right now is going through his own process of either penance or not. I'm not sure, I can't say. But he did help me a lot in my beginning. And Salima, she was brought up in a family of Nubians. What I've learned from him is when it is we engage in questions and answers, we begin to connect with the audience more, and more can be shared. We have a very interesting lineup for you guys this evening. So Salima just shared about story. I'm going to talk now about the taboos and words and titles in indigenous culture, and then she'll of course come back with a piece to complement that. She'll be going back and forth. So the question I have for the brothers and sisters who are listening on is, what have you heard about those words? Obiaman, witch, warlock, Wiccan, Sangoma, Iyame, Dibia, etc. You can, contribute. Let me hear what you guys are going to say. Let's chop it up a bit.
I always thought witch and warlock were European people doing stuff they ain't had no business doing. It had nothing to do with African spirituality. I could be wrong, because I always thought that, there were like, if you were engaged in African spirituality, because it was spiritual, those people were called priests and priestesses in the indigenous. God, dog, I got a thick tongue tonight. Indigenous languages. I apologize. So I mean, and is that understanding right, or are those terms or titles interchangeable? Like, does witch and warlock or Wiccan and stuff like that, can that apply to African spirituality?
Well, it can, and is according to the context. For example, in Suriname, when I told my chief that in Trinidad people don't like the word Obia, he couldn't resonate with that. It's beyond him. So I had to bring it to them. I said that word Obia, you cannot use that word very openly in Trinidad and Tobago. However, in the past, like in the 20s and 30s and coming up, it was an embraced word because it was used for good. In the UK, the original word for witch among the Europeans was called victi. Right. And warlock, the word used for the Scottish witches, which means he who sings down or brings down the spirits. So where we have the word witch just means wise one. It's a word that actually came about around the medieval times, because in Africa, that word didn't exist.
Correct. Yeah.
You hear Sangoma, you hear Yami among the Yorubas, you hear Dibia, you have many different terms, but witches tend to be a class of people who are very secretive. They don't really expose themselves to the community. And it's often passed from a mother to a daughter. The men are raised among the females. But that's again according to the landmass. Thinking about witchcraft, in particular, that was the first question or contribution I was given, is that witchcraft is a Rahubad, brother, Rahubad. The thing about witchcraft is that when it is we hear that word, we immediately turn to we reflect to Harry Potter, reflect to the craft, reflect to all these movies that Hollywood has made a mess of, as they say in the 300, made a mess of things, right? So what happens is that we can look at General Gardner, Alexander's, who were great pioneers of the Wiccan movement, or the Wiccan revival. One of the elders who actually made witchcraft sustainable or brought it back to a respectable man. There was a man by the name of Robert Cochrane. Now, that is the European side of the craft. When you go across to Africa, when you go to like Mexico, to Brazil, the Brazilians, the Peruvians in Cuba, or in the Congo, some of them are not even aware of that. So what I found is that many brothers and sisters as well who study about our culture tend to have more information from an exoteric level than those who are actually in that landmass. Those who are living there, they are more immersed in the esoteric because we influence the spirits as much as we want to know their part to us. Have I answered your question, brother?
Thoroughly. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So I'll pass it to my Nasu. She will contribute some more. I will go back and forth with that.
All right, wonderful. So since we're on the topic of which will be those taboo words, I would, because I am touching on the exoteric aspects of the session, I would just share a few experiences of what being immersed in that culture has done for me. Since I remembered from birth, I was born into a culture, into a family who were heavily involved in the Ifa tradition. So we would know names like the Orishas, Oshun, Shango, Ogun, Osain, Yemanja, Ashe. And my grandfather, so he is the elder in my life who would have carried me to Palais in Piti Valley. And at that age, I was, around 4 to 5 years. I would have just seen things that were scary to me. So I would have seen people manifesting and to me beating up all over the place and speaking in tongues and just in from an outside perspective, somebody who doesn't understand, like looking crazy. And understanding it more growing up and understanding what those manifestations, how they are brought about or what they meant, I too eventually wanted to undergo manifestation. So at times when I would go to parties, I would try to have the music consume me and nothing would happen. So I thought something was wrong with me. Why am I not manifesting anything like that? And I'm still learning. Currently, I'm in my early 20s. I'm still learning about manifestations and summoning spirits, evoking spirits. So it's still something that I'm learning. But I was not exposed to Christianity, which is rare in Trinidad because Christianity is one of the dominant religions in Trinidad. But what that would have done, being involved in the indigenous practices. So every day I would pour libation. At the time I didn't know what libation was. I just know taking water and pouring it on the ground. I didn't know it was libation. And I was never a child to really question, which is terrible. I question a lot now. But I would just, again, trust my grandfather, knowing that what he's telling me is accurate, right? But now I would question, okay, why is this done this way? Why is it done that way? But every day, get up, pray, pour libation. Get up, pray, pour libation. Before you go and sleep, pray and pour libation. And that created a foundation, a strong foundation in my life. In those moments, it would have been strenuous to me because having to get up early before the sunrise and pray for these long minutes. It wasn't a short prayer. It was a lot. But because of having more spirit than physical or materialistic gains, that has done some serious, beautiful things in my life, has created beautiful things in my life. So, yeah.
The interesting thing about what Salima mentioned is that her grandfather actually was an elder in the Wabian Nation. And we met back in 1998, 99. And I began my journey at age 19. And I traveled all over searching for indigenous knowledge. And among the elders, Abu, her grandfather, was one of those elders who began to talk to me. My whole life, I dedicated to spirituality. Interesting enough, I began studying capoeira. For those of you who are aware of capoeira, it's an African Brazilian martial art from that actually was perfected in Brazil from Montu style of fighting. And in the capoeira world, I am known as instructor as Raw Manganga. But the capoeira is what opened up all the doors for me to meet all these magnificent people. Elders from Nigeria, elders from Ghana, elders from Brazil. Matter of fact, I just came back from Brazil in January for a capoeira conference. And I met a brother from elder from Senegal. And he began singing in a native tongue. When he began singing, it called those who are with us right now in the space, assisting us to deliver this message to you guys. So what we want to do this evening is share with you guys, as we mentioned, exoteric and esoteric. So as the podcast goes on, I'm going to show you guys some things that you can do at home. It's nothing advanced, basic things you can do that are very tangible. Because what we have happening, I'm getting the tongue problem, like you mentioned. I'm very excited at the same time. All right, first time this is happening in 100 years in the world. So we hope that this can continue to meet in person after this corona planned pandemic is over. So we want to share with you some tools of power you can use. One of our challenges we have been facing in diaspora, what we call in Suriname, Wisi Mang. Wisi Mang is a Wisi woman, is someone who begins good in the culture and then begin to use the culture to outsmart their own people. We charge you exorbitant amount of fees for initiation, for doing spiritual work, for readings. I am blessed to know I have a chief, Chief Noah Manzazun. He's Yoruba, but in Suriname we have tribes. We have the Saramaka, we have the Paramacans, we have the Kintas, we have the Okanisi, and the Jukanas. He happened to be Saramaka, and the high spirit brought me to him. And under him is where I am getting my studies now, my teachings now. And talking to him, because I was detained in Suriname for 4.5 months, I just came back, and near the quarantine, that kind of stuff, right? So when the corona issue hit the roof and panic broke out all of the Bushining Day, or the Bushining goes, fled into the forest and they began giving us things to drink, things to take. One of those things is this. You see me through the podcast ingesting this item here. It's called tobacco. What we do, men and women take it for medicinal problems you may have. If you have runny nose, if you have headaches, it boosts the immune system, and we call it an obia. So like in Benin, you will have voodoo or spirit, Haiti spirit voodoo. In Zimbabwe, under Maui Nissaba. I have a sister from Haiti who I've known for over a decade now, who is strong in the Shona tribe. And she saw me taking the tobacco and we began to talk. And we realize the synchronicity that what's happening in Suriname, what's happening in Africa. You know, it's the same thing. So we've had a lot of problems with understanding our culture because there are a lot of people that are coming to America, coming to the Caribbean. And unfortunately, I was one of those people who were outsmarted or hoodwinked, if I can say that, out of a lot of money, and understanding how it is to connect with our ancestors properly. You know, so the delivery of authenticity, because some of us would go to the spirit. And I remember one student asked me if I give her a particular item, how long will it last? Baba, how long will this item last? Will it stay with me 3 months, 5 months, 6 months? And I said, no, it stays with you for the rest of your life once you respect the spirit that walks with it. So that is something we need to also need to, when it is we meet elders, we need to be able to talk with them because all we are, what I'm being trained for is to be an intermediary between the spiritual world and the physical world. That's what an Obi man or Obi woman is. And those secrets, like the story related, is for us to discover what's inside and then bring that out and pass it on to those who are receptive for that information. So in Capoeira, we have a martial art called Makulele, the stick fight. It is linked to Ugu, or Ogun. Very, very powerful, but unfortunately now in many Capoeira schools, we have a diluted version, which you can, and it's more like a dance. However, the foundation of Capoeira, or grass cutlo, and Angulo, or different terms it was called, Makulele is very important. And in Trinidad, we have an expression known as Boa, which Salima is also a part of. So she will elucidate further on that, right? So, yeah, I'll stop there for now and then I'll continue with the Boa fight.
Right, so in Trinidad, that's what, right, that is called Kalinda, Kalinda. It's commonly known as stick fighting. And again, it was an art form, a fighting art form that was used to rebel against the colonizers and their systems during slavery. Of course, we know when stuff like that come up, when art forms like that come up, or defense mechanisms arise, it is banned. So currently, I am involved in calendar, as I mentioned before, and my mentor, Jamie Filbert, is currently creating a calendar technique to revive that art form in Trinidad. Because yes, we know about the Boa men, we barely know about Boa women. We mostly hear about stick fighters, men, the males, not so much the females. But what happens again, like what Sekhet was saying, exploitation. These people who have created the foundation in Trinidad, who has rebelled, those who created revolutions, revolutionary movements, were just recognized for what it is they did and not acknowledged, and were not acknowledged afterwards, after the fact that, after what they did and their descendants. So what my mentor now is trying to revive that, so that both men and women, children, could involve themselves in it, participate in it. And one feature of it is community. So it's not just fighting, right? Two men in the ring, or what we call Gael fight, but it's the whole community is involved. You would have the chantwell singing, creating the atmosphere and drive in the while the session is going on. We have the drummers, we have the children looking on, we have the women looking on, men looking on, and that circle is where the energy is built. And Capoeira is similar to that. It's always a circle to keep that energy flowing, circulating. Right? So if you all have anything common in where you all at right now, perhaps the brother from Jamaica would have something similar to, well, we call it stick fights in our calendar. You could share with that, because again, we are learning and connecting and networking. What is?
Anyone want to contribute anything before we continue? So a lot of us began, our search into culture, unless we were being born into it, like Salima, her family, was immersed in it. For me, I began as a Christian. My family happened to be very strong Pentecostal, so getting into the church and then moving from the church into the bush is there's a big transition, vast transition. And when we, like I said earlier, when we use that word phobia, it has a lot of taboo behind it. Well, according to where you are at. So for my family, understanding or embracing phobia was very difficult. Matter of fact, many of my students have that challenge. Many of my students have that challenge with their companions. African men and women coming together in an African home, you find many who are in one household. You find some are Christian, Muslim. There's a separation in any household. Also, when we pray together, we stay together. So the importance of prayer, libation, all these things are essential. Interestingly enough, I have, of course, you will be familiar with this, the calabash, right? You're familiar with the calabash. And the calabash is our ancestors' first way of veneration. We ate in it, we would wash in it, we would also do obia wudu from it. So it's very sacred, a very sacred item in our culture. What I want to find out is how much you all know, what you all know about the calabash, or I share some more with you guys. Anyone wants to contribute to that? The calabash?
Baba, ask the question one more time. I'm sorry.
I'm asking if anyone knows anything or wants to contribute anything about the calabash. Because the calabash is a very sacred tool in our indigenous culture. It was the first thing that we actually ate from, that we would wash when we take our shower, we wash with it. So actually, when it is you, that's a question actually. Before you respond, I was telling Salima last night, she was, taking a wash, and she left the calabash in the bucket. And I told her that when you wash with a calabash, always take it out of the bucket and let it on the ground, because there are spirits that will wash with you. Now, the question may be, but how can a spirit wash with you when it's a inanimate object? How can it wash with you? What happens, you physically cannot see the spirit picking up the calabash and washing it. But the spirit actually picks up the representation of what is there and uses that to partake with you. That's why when we pour cold water, we pour libations in the ground, and we say, come and drink. The spirit is not drinking from a bottle, but it's the energy that comes from the item. They are partaking in it.
Intention.
The intention behind it. That's why our words are so powerful. So not to go too far, I want to go to what I was saying about the calabash. Anybody who has any contributions about the calabash, I'm willing to hear what you want to know, and then we can go deeper with it. Yeah. Guys, getting us good. We've seen that our internet connection is a bit unstable. You all hearing us well?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay. So what we're talking now about prayer, ritual and prayer, libations, excuse me, and the use of the calabash, right? So what I was asking is if any of you are familiar with any usages of the calabash in your culture or your practices?
Now, I'm not familiar with any uses myself, but I don't know. Have you ever seen the movie Kirikou?
Yes,
So in the beginning of the movie, when remember he gave birth to himself, or he birthed himself, and then he washed himself in the calabash.
Yes, yeah.
But a little bit, not a lot.
Okay. So what I want to share with you guys is that one of the greatest ways to let the ancestors stay around us, and for spirits, we call the spirits winties. It means wind, and it means that the spirits that come from Africa, they followed our ancestors to Saddam or Suriname. So in Benin, you will say Loa. In Nigeria and that area, you will say Odisha. The difference with the Winti is that some spirits are, I don't understand everything about spirits. I never will, right? You have the gods, you have men. But what I do understand from what my chief and elders teach me is that the Winti are very particular about who they choose to work with. And in particular, what we do to maintain that close connection with them, we wash in with the calabashi. I will stay inside and do.
So are you saying like the calabash is like a totem that can hold spirits, or spirits
Oh,
contain it?
oh yes,
Okay, I got it.
very, very sacred. And to maintain that sacredness with the spirit, with the yeye, as we say, we don't use soap on our skin. A lot of us, we have been introduced to, when we wash, we have to use soap on our skin. When we go to pray, we have to brush our mouth. I'm not saying don't do these things when washing your mouth, right? What I'm saying is that when we go to pray, we will oftentimes use, we will wash our mouth and then go and talk, because the bacteria in our mouth is more harmonious for the spirits. What we may consider to be taboo or to be unclean, in some respects, it is clean to them. So if you have read Malidoma Some's book of Water and Spirit, he talks a lot about these things. So when it is we shower, and when it is you guys shower from after this podcast, you can try it. Today is Friday, today is Friday. Try it from now until next week Friday. No soap. Just scrub your skin with a rag, bathe in warm water, try and wake up as the nose saying before the sunrise. And let's do that for 7 days. And you can message me and let us know what you experience.
You know, my mother's mother, my mother's grandmother was from well, she was boated in Cuba. She landed in Cuba, and she used to do the same thing. So my dad, who was from New Orleans, and he had a different, experience growing up. That was one of the things they always go back and forth with, because she was like, hey, sometimes when you bathe, like most of the time, she wouldn't use soap. She would just use, a warm rag, and scrub really hard. So I definitely know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so.
Was that because she was a part of a specific culture, practice, religious practice, or that was just generational patterns or behaviors or habits?
Well, my mother's grandmother, she, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to tell you any stories, she practiced Santeria.
Okay.
So I don't know if it came out of Santeria or not, but I know it was a lot of that, because again, we were Africans that she spoke Spanish, but when she met my grandmother, my grandmother spoke Spanish, but her husband, he didn't want the children to speak Spanish. He just wanted to speak English. So a lot of things were lost, but some of the things she did bring, because like I said, her mother, was born on the island of Cuba, and my grandmother was born in Cuba. So I'm assuming that it came out of that tradition, and it was something that she passed on to her children. Because my mother has 9 brothers and sisters. It was 10 of them. So, you know, yeah, they grew up, yeah, they were an old time type of family.
That's interesting, man, because, you know, I always wanted to go to New Orleans. Maybe one day I'll get a chance to go. When I travel and I see different cultures, you know, it's amazing how our people express the interactions with the gods. I met a sister on my way back to Trinidad. I met a sister from Cuba, and her family happened to be Paleros, Palamayombe, and they are very deep into Santeria, you know, so, but they still call upon Ogun and Shango and Oya and Watala and Eshu and all of these.
So connected.
Yeah, it's so connected. It's the same. It's very similar. Very similar. So when it is we begin to pray, we should not ignore the brothers and sisters who are in Cuba, in Africa, in America, in wherever Black people are, we're African. Wherever you are, you're Africans. Our ancestors came and settled the Moorish Empire. They came and they did their part. And I am so proud of the admin for doing this particular, organizing this particular event, because it is allowing us to hear from brothers and sisters around you, also share through this medium of Zoom to connect. Because one of the major ways of passing the knowledge actually being with the person. Like I told my brothers and I told my students, you know, Salima and I live together. So there are many things I would share with her that I can't share with them because they're not living with me. So in Suriname, you have to, like you mentioned your mother's mother, your great grandmother, right? When it is you are wrong, the elders, they do some of the most simplest things that pass so much, it has so much power behind it. The simple thing about not sitting down on a chair, that not putting food, matter of fact, where you sit. It's very taboo for us, because you're putting, that is where you're resting your energy. You know, when it is we go outside, I'm sure you've heard this, some of you have heard this. Your parents will tell you, when you're coming inside after 12, turn around, then walk in. You know, tie your laces a particular way with shoes. Wear this particular, finish it up inside out after 12, and this kind of thing. When you're walking by cemetery, you don't say anything. And all of these things are true. They have their reasons behind it. And they're now captured in folklore. They're captured in our stories, like Anansi, the Papa Boa here in Trinidad, called the god of the forest, the god master. So it's how we get back to that spot. I believe that you guys tuned into this particular podcast because you wanna hear maybe what it is this brother has to share that can benefit me, that I can pass it on to somebody else. And that's why I like the interaction, the exchange, because if we keep talking and sharing what we experience, what we do, then it limits the dialogue. Before we began, when we prayed, before we asked the ancestors to open the doors, that the people who are here, it could be one person who is here. That person can change a lot of people's lives. You know, so we always, though we want more people to be present, more people to understand, and for us to actually meet eventually in person by the will of Mama Nana, you know, but that, you know, the exchange is so unique that your ancestors, all of you who are watching on now, listening, our ancestors, and they combine, because there's the ancestors who are what we call the Grand Sama, your great grandmother, you know, my father and her grandparents and great grandparents and so on. And then there are the elders in the Grand Sama, or Grand Basi. And these ancestors, they look after the ones who are younger. The interesting thing about our indigenous culture is that we can actually, as we begin to connect with them, we can actually begin to see them, smell them, hear them. And when we put an image of them, or something like the light put a candle for them. We invite that energy back. Of course, I'm not going to go into what the Christians have to say about this and the likes. We're focusing on our spirituality, which came long before their interpretation of it. So I want to pause for a while and let Salima continue. But there's a subject I want to touch on, which is controversial practices in Obi and Mishra, which I'll begin to share with you guys some tools that we use and their purpose and the differences that are used in Africa as well as in Europe and throughout the diaspora. Because what I've found is that many people are looking for this information. They're looking for information and we end up in the wrong places. You know, people, again, they try to trick us. But when you see results, what the main thing we want to get is results. When we pray, we want to make sure our prayers are answered. So there's something called an egregor. An egregor is a group mind. It's where when people begin to generate a lot of energy towards something. So in the church, someone will say, I don't know what you believe in. I believe in Jesus Christ because when I pray to Jesus Christ, things happen. What you're actually doing, what they're doing is tapping into an egregor that has been sustained for generations. However, we can call upon Jesus, we call upon Yeshua, or whoever we're going to term the master teacher as. When we call upon Yeshu, when we call upon Shakpana, Ogun, Oya, Oshun, when we call upon in the Bushinenge, we say Kromanti is the god of war, gods of war, 7 brothers. We call upon the Papa Winti, I saw on the slide, the serpent, and they follow a totem, because you asked earlier, one of the brothers asked me about the totem. So you have that, they have that particular animal or reptile that a spirit walks with. So for us, never kill the boa constrictor, the anaconda, the cobra. Those snakes are very sacred to us, and there's spirits that walk with them. So we are very careful of what we do with insects, simple flies, the simple mosquitoes. I'm not saying let things feed all over your food and those kind of things. But when they appear in particular areas of your life, you must be aware that it may not just be a mosquito that's buzzing around in your home, or a butterfly, or fly, or flea, we call it. There may be something else there with it. Our perception has become very attuned to what is around us as African people, as we are reclaiming our identity, both on a business platform, maybe health-wise, and spirit. We never separated the spiritual world from the mundane. They worked hand in hand. However, now we are hearing that we have something called atheism and so on. But these things are far in between what the African man and African woman perpetuated from ancient Africa. So there's no such thing as atheism. We don't know what that means. Because the Godhead, who we call Mama Nana or Master Gangadu, is part of our everyday life. When we wake, we pray. When we sleep, we pray. Everything we do is Obia. Very similar to you see the Chinese movies when they have the Kung Fu. Whatever they're doing, everything is Kung Fu. When they eat, it's Kung Fu. When they shower, it's Kung Fu. Very similar, because they learn these things from those who travel to China, which of course are our ancestors. So libations are important. The passing of the information to the next generation is important. What we're trying to do now is how do we get there? How do we do these things efficiently and for tangible results? So I leave the floor to you guys to share contributions or questions, and we'll build from there. We'll build further into that again. Guys, anything you want to add on this?
Basically, just well, we know what happened in our history with slavery and religious conversions and so forth. Those who are parents in the group chat, allow your children, I would say, like when they are seeking out of, let's say, comfort zone, allow them to explore into things that may not be familiar. So let's say in African traditional practices, so like these taboo words like Obi and so forth, because we already have like a mental block about it. Just be open-minded to that. And parents themselves or anybody who's unfamiliar with it, just be open-minded to it. Forget not our ancestors. Even if you weren't born into that culture, you know only about Christianity, Jesus, God. The ancestors are here regardless. They are around us. There are people who are here and who has passed on and are calling out for your acknowledgement. So if you don't believe in it fully, still pour libation. Call your grandmother's name. Call your grandfather's name. Acknowledge. Thank you. Connect with them, because this is not just us as physical, the physical interacting, it is spiritual and the physical. So connect with them. Become aware of that. So yeah.
So guys, thank you so much for listening so far. We'd like to know if you have any questions. I'm going to move into a forest ritual that you can do for when children are coming born, actually. A ritual you can do. Then we'll move forward from there. Any questions you'll have so far, what we've been sharing with you?
Baba, you said a couple things that I think were very poignant. You said wherever you find Black people, they're African. And I think that's the overall message, of this whole conference, that, where you find us, you find Africa. And that's important. And I think that what you guys are talking about is, at the end of the day, there's been a disconnect from ourselves because, we have either forgotten, we have rejected, or just downright dismissed African spirituality, and how, like you guys are saying, it connects us to our ancestors, because we're nothing with our ancestors. If you move one ancestors, just one out of our line, then we cease to exist. And I love that. Something else you said that I can remember from my childhood. I'm 41 now. And when, again, this is my mother's mother. You couldn't kill spiders in her home. She always felt like those were ancestors. And especially, the brown ones with the little skinny legs, you could not kill them. She was like, oh, I don't care if it bites y'all upside the head, that's okay. Because, she felt that those were the ancestors returned. If you walked through a spider web, I mean, you could get whacked, upside the head, because for whatever reason, she had a very kindred relationship, with that creature. We never really went into detail about it. But it was something that you said that kind of resonated with me, that I kind of remembered. Something else that you said, and again, is back to this grandmother. You was like, sometimes when you are in tune and you're really immersed in African spirituality, you can see your ancestors and you can smell them, and it's different. It's different, like you said, the light. Well, my grandmother, she wouldn't eat like other people's food. She definitely wouldn't eat like fast food. And what she used to do, no matter what it was, she prepared it. But what I'm talking about from field to the table. She would slaughter her chickens. This lady had me out there killing chickens at like 4 years old. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready to see the chicken run around with the head cut off. But it was like, nope, you got to learn it. She taught me how to, dip the chicken in the hot water, how to pluck it, which is a very hard thing to do. But, it was just those things that she said, at the end of the day, it was a way. So I'm saying it to say this. She said it's a way that you handle the food, which honors the ancestor, because they have to get their portion, So, and when she would always prepare her food, it was a little area. I look back now, I didn't understand it then, but it was like she had her own little altar, her own little shrine, to her honored ancestors. And no matter what she prepared, and like I told you, we had a big family, or she had a big family. She would always leave some for those ancestors. But it was the care that she took, into preparing her food, that it was important to her. And to her, it was how she, I guess I would say, how she had those memories, how she brought back that how she tapped into that ancestral realm. So
who taught her these things?
It was my mother's my mother's mother, my grandmother. And
okay.
Yeah, that like her mother was the one I know for a fact practiced Santeria in Cuba, and
It's the same thing in Suriname. All that you're mentioning there, I can relate many stories to you guys. We don't have enough time, but it's the same thing. But it's the same thing. I'm trying to tell a lot of my brothers, my sisters, this thing is the same. It's one Africa, one Africa. You know, we don't understand why it is. You know, if in Benin you say Maulisa, we say Olodumare, we say Maui Misekanavu. You have so much names for God Supreme because of the dialect. We have Amunwah, we have so many different names. And the spirits, some of them are different, but they have similar qualities or similarities. And you mentioned something there very significant about the animal and the spider web. I was trying to keep that in my mind to not forget. And I want to just, contribute to something that you said. And sorry for you off there. However, sorry, when I was in Suriname, I had this experience where I was praying because we live in the bush. So we call ourselves the Bushy Ningay, the Bush Negroes, right? And I knew from in Trinidad, when you're walking through the street, you feel spider in your face. It's a commonality with spirits. However, one evening, it was like I walked into like a huge room of only spider web. And how we relay the contact with spirit is that your grandmother, how strong her contact is with the spirits, she can watch the Anansi, the spider, and where the spider moves, she can say that is this, that is that. And she may not always say what it is. What they tell us now, that is superstition.
Right.
They say
And
that,
still fear.
yeah, and they still fear us. That is superstition. Don't believe in that nonsense, and so on. But when we do something that is not common for the average human being to do, say that is witchcraft you're doing, it is evil, it is obeah, you should stop it. Because the white man, the enslavers, they never understood, they feared our power. And they still do. They still fear the African man. They can't understand how we are able to fly back in ancient times and sometimes now. Right? The reason why I said, because we have an hour and a half, right? The reason why I said that you all should ask questions, because there's many things I want to share with you guys. But sometimes it's based on what this person shares, or the question they ask opens up a particular door for us to go into a particular area of discussion. And what it does, it allows us to leave each podcast, each lecturer will do their best to deliver the best way they can. So we will leave with information that we can use tomorrow, right after the hour and a half is finished. So, there's a story in Malidoma's book, Malidoma's book, Baba Malidoma, of Water and Spirit. I refer to this book to my students to read because it's one way that we can, it's one of the best ways, that I can, explain what happens in Suriname, because we have vowed to secrecy. There are things we can discuss, and there are things we can't discuss, because the elders are very particular about those things. But if I can use Malidoma's experience about talking with the animals, when it is you are close to the animals, you can begin to understand the conversations. And it's amazing what a chicken is really thinking, man. It's amazing when you watch the ants, when you watch the birds. Everything in nature has a language. And we as human beings, we as Africans, are connected to that source. And once we begin to truly say, I want to know, we want to sabi this culture, once we want to know these things, they begin to open up doors for us. Sometimes these doors are not going to be too favorable. You're going to be tested. But then you're going to see things happening for you. And then the bitter becomes the sweet. And the sweet becomes sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And then the bitter there for us to understand why it is, things are happening to us. So I want to thank you for that contribution with the chickens. I had one myself, And you know, the thing about initiation is that it's supposed to transform your life. All of you who are listening to this podcast, wherever you go to do initiation, when you are finished, you are not the same. A new name does not make you have access to the powers of the gods. What does that is the gods choosing to walk with you and reveal their mysteries to you, like the boy in the story that Salima gave at the beginning of the podcast. So you got to ask these elders, you got to talk with them, you got to feel them, and when you begin to grow with them, you begin to understand if it is that person has a good heart. Too often when we hear the word obia, we align these practices, and we hear the word witchcraft and voodoo. We align these practices with malignant activity, and it's not true. You know, some malicious acts will be happening. Yes, there are things for defense. Yes, there are rituals you can do to cause uncomfortable situations in somebody's life. But that doesn't mean that you use that knowledge for that. There's many other teachings you can use to heal someone, to protect someone, right? So we're going to move on to, if I'm going to pause for a while to see if there are any questions. You may want to contribute to what I said, but we want to move on to a ritual that I want to share with you guys about how to deal with the placenta from the after birth that you can use to bless the child, protect the child. With my two children, Isis and Anu. So it's something that I'm not giving you that hasn't been actually practiced. It's something I actually do with the offspring.
And that's the same with drinking before offering and before sharing.
Yeah, so you said just now, brother, that your grandmother would not eat or should prepare food, right?
Yes.
And in our culture, for example, if I'm eating and the food I'm filled, I will pass the bowl first to finish the rest, to consume the rest. I wouldn't throw it away. What we do also, if there's food remaining, especially at night, you put the saucer, the bowl, or whatever it is, on a high spot, and you leave it there for the grandson, for the ancestors to partake in it. And in the morning, you can discard it. So these things, these practices are very important. Putting a candle for them before, when you come into your home, you know, because there's energy in your home. And you say, you know, greetings or granddada, grandpapa, good evening. And you talk with the ancestors. You talk because the ancestors are the gatekeepers to the earth. They are there. And when it is, you may say, I had someone who lived in the physical, who wasn't too favorable in my life. And I told my chief, you know, there's a grandmother I had that she treated me really ill, really poorly. And he said, it's not a problem, Amunwah. When she goes there, she's not the same person, but she's still the same person. And I couldn't understand what he was, you know, relating to me until later on I realized that the flesh limits our true perception of reality. Flesh. So when we are able to, like the brother said, slip out of the physical body and experience the astral world, then death becomes only a transition from the physical. You don't have a fear of death, but we can visit that world often. Each time we sleep, we go to that spiritual realm. Consciously, unconsciously. And what our culture does is teach us how to interact with that spirit, that spiritual realm. So I'm seeing 6 people in the chat now. The questions, anyone have any questions for us as we continue? So thus far, what we're discussing, I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with it because we want to go a bit deeper. So they want to know if you guys are comfortable or okay with the conversation so far.
Well, Baba, I'm gonna be honest with you. They're not comfortable because it's something, though it's old, it's new.
Yes.
Deep. Go deep.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, go deep.
The numbers going down.
Yeah, as we said in the interview on, it was Monday or Sunday, there will be some uncomfortable topics being discussed. But we heard our sister said go deep, so that's good. We happy for the open mind.
Okay. So let's talk about the births. Because some of us have children, or we plan to, and I will let Salima lay the foundation for this. Then I will going to come after. She's going to talk about the esoteric aspect, and I'm going to come in and implement it. And then we have to talk about Jesus, the foundation and the cement and so on. All right? Because from there, we're going to go into some topics. I'm going to show you guys some sacred items that I brought with me here for my spiritual, for my temple, my shrine. Because we have to shake people up a bit. As the brother said, it is old, but it's new. And when we start to grow, even when I was in Suriname, I couldn't say much things because of how intense some people see it. All right, so I'm gonna pause there and let Salima go into
Right, so because of the platform used, so very much appreciated of it. Okay.
I'm getting some water, guys. Give me 1 minute. She's gonna continue, okay?
Yeah, because it's a platform that the only platform we could use really to connect. But as Sekhet was saying before, really hoping that after COVID, we get to meet and connect, because then more things will be able to share, more in-depth things will be able to pass on. He mentioned, okay, brother, he mentioned birth, and well, we've been talking about information passing on from one generation to the next, rituals, African indigenous practices in the home, in the community, the importance of that. And in the beginning, I mentioned when you saw in the picture, children gather around the elders, the relationship between the elders and the children, as Madaduma Somi, Petri Somi, which is this book of Water and the Spirits, which we recommend that you'll get in hand with one, access to one, spoke of the strong relationship between elders and children. Children are, we always say, are the future. They are the ones who are going to pass on the information. We preserve the secrets, preserve the mysteries, preserve the pure, uncontaminated form of these practices. So one of the things that made me interested in becoming a midwife is Sekhet shared with me a book of how to create your own baby, and I was so amazed by it, because usually we think, okay, get pregnant and that's it, not knowing from conception to birth, the mother's mind, the mother's mindset, her behaviors, her patterns are shaping the baby, and she is creating her baby, basically. So that time frame from conception to birth is important in supporting the mother, helping her through that process, so that when that baby is born, we already have a warrior in our hand. We have someone who could contribute to the community.
You know, Sister Salima, you're right, because in Dr. Amos Wilson, Awaken the African Genius, and in Developmental Child Psychology, he says that. He says that the baby's first experience with the world is inside the mommy, because when she has her,
right,
and different reactions as that amniotic fluid rises and falls. You know, it's teaching the baby, you know, about different emotions, a different mindset. So you're absolutely right.
Right. Yes. Thank you for that contribution. Okay, so I'm seeing someone sending questions. Oh, no, okay. Yes, so it is just important. So my goal is to connect with midwives as well, because we have to teach our children. As we can see, especially in the Western world, we're seeing children misguided. We're seeing them being involved in activities that are just depleting the integrity of the community and the substance, the essence of what community should be. So I really hope we could connect and find ways. I am not a parent, but again, my goal is to become a midwife. So I would love to speak with parents, anybody, so that we can help our children, because they are, again, the future.
So we have a moment to now go into the ritual. So you can either use your phones or you can have a notepad nearby. I'll give you guys maybe a few minutes to get it done together, and then we're gonna go into that ritual. Okay, so the placenta.
Fine.
Okay, guys, 5 more minutes we have. So the ritual I wanted to explain to you guys is you get the placenta from the mother, and what you do, you carry to the forest with particular items: honey, milk, money. Chicky money will should be like silvers, quarters, vodka or puncheon. We call it puncheon here in Trinidad, or vodka. You also have a candle, white candle. The white candle will symbolize all the colors. The black is more for aggressive energy. The white candle. It is green, right? You also want to have some cloth with the placenta inside, and you dig a hole next to a can tree. Can tree is what we call a silk cotton tree. I'm not sure if that tree is in America. I know it's Barbados that we baobab tree and the silk cotton tree. It's a very powerful ancestral tree. In the UK, they use the ash tree, and they call it the edge of the silk, or the wool tree, where it connects all the spirits, all the ancestors. If you cannot find that tree, you can find a tree that calls out to you. But you mustn't let anyone know where that tree is. You carry the placenta there. You dig a hole. You can do this very early in the morning or in the waxing hour between 1 or 12 to 3 a.m. When you go there, you put the placenta into the hole, and you call upon your ancestors and you ask them to protect your child. You ask what it is you want. Be very specific. You want health, which is important. You want money, wealth for the child. You want them to be wise. You want them to have a good life, live long. You want them to have posterity, to have children as well. You make sure and you prepare yourself at least 3 days before you go and do the ritual. You would place the honey inside. The honey is symbolic to having a sweet life. When you pour the honey, you say, "Sweeten your earth." When we say Mama Isa, which is Mother Earth, or Tiamat, or Gaia, according to our culture. So in Obia, we say Mama Isa, or Papa, we call upon these spirits to come to us and aid in protecting the placenta. And when you place the placenta in there, you place the honey, you place the milk, you ask, you place the money, then you cover it, and you also pour some libation of the soap or the alcohol, and you also place that candle on top of it and watch the flame, and you meditate there for at least 5-10 minutes. And while you're there, think about what you want for the child. I fed on the percent that for a very long time. All right, so I wanted to share a lot of other items with you guys. This is called Pimba. Right, it's an item that we use in Africa. Okay, it's a ball. You see people put it on the skin, they're all white. Right, I wanted to go into this, but unfortunately our time is upon us. Also behind Salima, you'll see a forked item in the back there called a stang. And it's what used as the old craft of witchery to connect with the horn god. And that is the spirit people call the devil. You know, Christianity has done a mess of things. And those spirits have been working with us and guiding us for many centuries. In ancient Kemet, we call it Kunu. So I'll let I'm Baba Sekhet member Amunwah. I have get in contact with me. You can always reach the admin. And of course, we always say our parting words. I want to thank you guys from my heart for listening to us and your experience.
Yes, and I'm Salima Nissaba. Continue to honor your ancestors, continue to connect with yourself, continue to seek out more information about yourself, and be open-minded. Remember, everything is intention. So the ritual that Sekhet share with you, intentions are important in making that manifest successfully. Okay, thank you for this session. Thank you for being open-minded. And we are hoping that we'll be able to connect with you in person, preferably. Have that exchange. And thank you, Faith.
Thank you, family. Thank you very much. Peace and Black Power. You guys did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Doc shotgun. Buck front. Yeah. Shot. Intro to O. And my dude, that Timbuktu to Ave. For renew your passion, shun the condition, and not the who, what, when, where, and you are from. At last. Put the higher